The young woman stopped her motorcycle and watched as the lights she'd been observing overhead came even closer, revealing an object with what appeared to be a glass panel on one side. Inside the object, two beings stood, watching her. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am just another tinfoil hat, and welcome to my show. Now, today we will be discussing the fascinating case of the Auckland Anomaly. But before I get to that, I have some extremely exciting news that I have to tell you guys. Now, I'm sure that many of you are already devout listeners, as I am, of Ryan Sprague's just simply fantastic podcast, Somewhere in the Skies. If not, super duper highly recommended. Genuinely one of my favorite one of my favorite anomalies podcasts, actually just one of my favorite podcasts, hands down, which makes what I'm about to say here like even more surreal. Somewhere in the Skies is now the official home of the audio version of Just Another Tinfoil Hat. So every other Friday, you can tune in and listen to me talking about classic cases of the very finest high strangeness. The first release was one of my all-time favorite cases. You guys probably already know what I'm about to say. The Simonton Encounter, yes, also known as the case of the alien pancakes. So there's a link to that from Spotify in the description. However, you can listen to Somewhere in the Skies on your preferred podcast enjoying platform. And you absolutely should. This leads to another very exciting piece of news. The most recent episode of Somewhere in the Skies, at least as of this recording and release, Ryan spoke with Michael Huntington, Anomaly's researcher extraordinaire, and filmmaker Joseph Turi about their new documentary, Grand Tower, UFOs, and Other High Strangeness. And I had the absolute privilege to be interviewed as part of that documentary. It's I'm just so excited. I mean, this is a fantastic moment for me to really take just a minute and say thank you to, everyone, like other researchers and investigators who have included me in their projects and expressed an interest in, my particular brand of research, as well as all of you, um, anyone here who has been a subscriber for a long time, people who are new to the channel, even if you're just wandering by and my videos caught your eye, just thank you so much, for being here and expressing an interest in all of this really bizarre stuff that, in my opinion, is an important part of what it means to be human, to kind of tackle some of these questions about why do people see things that seem to be impossible. So just really, thank you so much for kind of sharing this interest with me. And yeah, just super duper excited about both of these pieces of news. Oh, and also too, Grand Tower, UFOs and Other High Strangeness, not yet available to stream. Sorry to keep you all in suspense, but don't worry, I'll keep you in the loop as to when it's available. In the meantime, go and listen to that episode of Somewhere in the Skies to get kind of the gist of what it's about. Again, just a very, very cool project that I am so thrilled that I was able to be a part of. And in the meantime, I'll get on to the case at hand. Now, this case occurred in New Zealand on Sunday, April 2nd, 1978. A young woman by the name of Lee Robinson was riding her motorcycle along Sunset Road to Henderson, a suburb of Auckland, around 8:30 in the evening when she saw flashing lights in the distance overhead, so she stopped and watched as these lights came closer. She said that at first she thought that a star had exploded, not exactly sure what that means, maybe a falling star. But as the lights approached, she said that she realized that they actually were revolving kind of like a lighthouse. Now, the thing came even closer, and she saw that it was shaped, as she described it, like a door wedge, with two red lights and one green light. She said that one side of the object appeared to be transparent. As the object came to a stop within about 200 meters of her, as she estimated, Lee said that she noticed two figures inside of the object watching her. She claimed that she could only see the beings from the waist up, and that she felt as though they had come to see what she was doing. She also claimed that they appeared to be wearing what she described as dark robes. Lee claimed that she stood there, frozen in fear, for a couple of minutes until finally a car drove down the road, effectively breaking her trance and apparently spooking the object. It moved off into the night. So Lee was kind of so perturbed by this event that she called a nearby airbase to see if they had received any other reports. They hadn't, but after her account was published in the Auckland Star, multiple people called to say that they too had seen a strange, either wedge-shaped object or lighted object, in the skies around Auckland over the weekend. A man named Wade Corlick called to say that he and a friend, Bruce Kidd, had been on the road Friday night when they saw a brilliant orange light overhead. Suddenly, a police car sped past and stopped at an upcoming intersection. The two officers inside had already seen the object and stopped for a closer look. The party of four continued to watch as the object, which they described as leaded as kind of this wedge shaped thing, um, kind of appeared to get smaller, then bigger, then simply faded away. One Mr. and Mrs. Griffin also called the paper to report a sighting of a bright green and white light, which occurred about the same time as Lee Robinson's account. Now, this is a relatively short case, but I really could not resist making a quick episode on it because of one very weird detail: the robed beings. This is an excellent example of kind of one of those cross field aspects. By all accounts, you have this very, you know, classic, very ufologically inclined sighting of just this lighted geometric object in the sky, and then the occupants inside are dressed in these dark robes, something much more akin to the ghostly side of Anomaly's research. So called phantom monks are a common motif throughout haunted locations, and oddly enough, they make an appearance more often than you might expect in cases of so called UFO occupant contact. Now, this case also has another one of my favorite details, that of the anomaly appearing to watch the observer. Now, I've mentioned this time and time again, but I feel as though the emphasis on many of these apparent entities, whether the eyes are a prominent feature of the entity or just the action of kind of watching, it seems to be a very important trope or pattern, almost as though maybe a reaffirmation, or maybe we might even say contract, between the observer and the observed. Now, another great aspect, which is this kind of reoccurring theme, and again, kind of cross every field of anomalies research, is the importance of lights and light phenomena. Now, in this case, as well as other sightings in the area at the time, the lights were the first thing which attracted the attention of the observers. From there, especially in the case of Lee Robinson, more details kind of emerged. Now, I've said it a billion times if I've said it once. John Keel was of the opinion that the lights, or what we would consider the softer sightings, are actually the core or the important thing of the encounter, and the hard and fast appearances of craft or entity or creature are kind of more of an illusion. And I think that there's potential for a lot of truth kind of in that concept. Now, interestingly enough, if we kind of look at these encounters as more individualized experiences swayed by the observer, somewhat illusory in nature, here we also have the flip side. Although Lee was the only one to report seeing these beings inside of the object itself, appearing as this door wedge shaped thing, was also spotted and confirmed as appearing that way by Mr. Corlett and Company, and a few days previous, which kind of shows this perceived solidarity of these sightings, these potentially illusory sightings, that they kind of maintain the same shape in the same area for a period of time. Unless, of course, we're to believe that dark robed monks from outer space flew their giant door wedge to the Auckland area for a weekend jaunt. On the flip side, yet again, at roughly the same time that Lee was having her sighting, complete with little robed men, the Griffin couple simply spotted a green and white light glittering across the sky. Is that because of the distance, or is it because they weren't close enough to kind of kickstart the details of that encounter? So again, we're faced with the question, objective or subjective, and personally, I think the answer is yes. Again, paradoxical and wonderful, and really quite odd. So before I head out, let me remind you guys once again, go and check out Somewhere in the Skies, especially that newest episode on the documentary Grand Tower, UFOs, and Other High Strangeness. And if you enjoyed this episode on the Auckland Anomaly, please like, and if you're new to this field of crop circles, go ahead and subscribe to see what weirdness the future may have in store. Till then, you can keep up with me on my free blog at patreon.com/justanothertinfoilhat. And for today, I am Zelia Edgar, signing off.
Do